government has now outlined?
Yes, what happens is normally every year a new session of Parliament begins, so all the business of the previous session ceases and you start afresh and you have a Queen's speech setting out the policies that are going to be implemented over the following year. This session, unusually, extremely unusually, has gone on for well over 2 years, so it's been an extraordinarily long session, and the problem with that is that it's run out of steam, and so it's the right time, indeed it's slightly late, to be having a new session and a new Queen's speech.
In terms of the days, there has been some confusion over the number of days that MPs will be able to debate in the House of Commons between now and the time we leave the European Union on the 31st. How many days will it be?
Well, there will be the debate on the Queen's speech, which is usually a 4 or 5 day debate. And during that time, people are free to raise any subject that they like. So people could devote all of that to talking about leaving the European Union. But there will also be the European Council and time to debate any decisions that come from that council. And certainly, if there is an agreement, there will be 13 days in which to debate implementing that in UK law. So there's a great deal of time to discuss European matters if that is what Parliament wishes to do.
You'll be very aware already that what people are accusing this government of is narrowing the window, that it's a cynical ploy to stop MPs being able to debate what is a crucial issue.
I think people who are saying that are crying constitutional wolf. You must remember that the shadow leader of the House of Commons, Valerie Vaz, and Chris Bryant, both distinguished parliamentarians, kept on saying, when are we going to have a new session of Parliament? And we are now having a new session of Parliament, which gives them back opposition days and resets the parliamentary timetable, so it has benefits for the opposition as well.
It's undeniable that one of the results of what you're doing is there is less time to debate Brexit. That is a fact.
Well, not necessarily, actually, because the time available to debate Brexit hadn't been set. So next week back, there wasn't going to be specific debates on Brexit. This allows, with the day's debate on the Queen's speech, to have specific time allocated where people will be able to discuss Brexit. And bear in mind, we were about to go into the conference recesses, so Parliament wasn't going to be sitting for most of this time anyway.
Address, if you would, the Speaker of the House of Commons. His quote is, "This is a constitutional outrage to stop debating Brexit."
There is a constitutional problem with what Mr. Speaker said. Speaker Leventhal said that he had not eyes to see nor tongue to speak unless directed by the House. It is not constitutional for the Speaker to express his opinion without direction of the House. He has had no such direction, and therefore his comments are in a private capacity. They cannot be as Mr. Speaker.
So, I mean, what are you going to do about that? You're saying he wasn't allowed to say what he said.
Mr. Speaker has not eyes to see nor tongue to speak unless directed by the House. What he said from holiday yesterday was not directed by the House.
Nicola Sturgeon has said this is a dark day for democracy. I mean, there is a clear pattern. Oh, okay.
Nicola Sturgeon would, wouldn't she? Nicola Sturgeon is the leader of a separatist movement within this country who wants to break up the United Kingdom. You would expect her, if the government had said we would celebrate Christmas Day on the 25th of December, Nicola Sturgeon would have been in a state of outrage.
Well, okay,
that's her default position.
You can take that position in relation to one politician saying that. But a lot of people, and there's 1 million people who've signed a form in our petition suggesting that this should not happen. A lot of people are saying there's a principle here. There is a clear principle, which is MPs should be given time to debate. And if we're at a time of crisis, whichever way you sit on this, you should be given more time. Your government should not be taking away time at this moment.
Well, first of all, 17.4 million people voted to leave the European Union. And Dicey, the great constitutional theorist who sets out the basis of parliamentary sovereignty, said that the point of our conventions was that Parliament and the Cabinet could follow the will of the nation. And that is what Parliament and the Cabinet are doing. So this is completely constitutional and proper. There is going to be lots of time to debate before the 31st of October. Parliament will be sitting then and will be able to have whatever motions it wants. I think the outrage is phony. And it is created by people who don't want us to leave the European Union and are trying very hard to overturn the referendum result and don't want the benefits of leaving the European Union, including cheaper food, clothing and footwear, which we will get when we are free to set our own economic policies.
The accusation of phony is an interesting one because people say you and your government, Boris Johnson, are being disingenuous that you have actively tried to narrow down the time, and you're trying to present it, as you have done very eloquently this morning, as just normal business. Nothing unusual here, nothing to see. They're saying you too are being disingenuous.
Well, I accept there is one abnormality, and that is that this session has gone on quite so long. But it has become the adult parliament. The last adult parliament was in 1614. This parliament hasn't been doing anything, hasn't been getting through business. It hasn't had that legislative programme, that oomph that parliament needs to show that the country is being governed. And this will give parliament back its oomph. It will get us away from...
Are you seriously suggesting this new, energetic Boris Johnson government could not make the NHS better, could not make our schools better, or could not start that process without doing what you've now done? Are you seriously suggesting that?
I am, because one of the things a new session does is clear the parliamentary decks. So you are therefore free to set out a new legislative programme, and you know that you have a year to get it through. Whereas currently, there is an expectation that this session would end fairly soon, and therefore you can't start complicated new bills because you'd be likely to run out of time. So it's really important to have the new session to get on with those domestic priorities.
So MPs will be here next week. The question mark, which clearly is this is not in your domain, is what will those who are opposed to you do? They may well seek some form of legislation through the Commons, a vote of no confidence. Is your government prepared to take this to a general election? Is that the big game of bluff that you're playing?
Well, it seems that Mr. Corbyn doesn't have any mates, and therefore is not going to risk a vote of confidence because nobody wants him to be Prime Minister, and that is a problem for him rather than a problem for me. But no government, no party should ever be frightened of the British people. If they have a vote of confidence, let them see if they can win it. And you're on to absolutely, to my mind, the right point. All these people who are wailing and gnashing their teeth know that there are two ways of doing what they want to do. One is to change the government, and the other is to change the law. If they do either of those, that will then have an effect. If they don't have the courage or the gumption to do either of those, then we will leave on the 31st of October in accordance with the referendum result.
Courage and gumption is interesting. I draw your attention to Ruth Davidson, and we wait to see a little later this morning, but many people are saying that she is about to make a very big decision about quitting the party, quitting her role. I mean, if that happens, and clearly we don't know as we stand here now, I mean, that is a seismic blow for the Conservative Party.
Well, Ruth Davidson is a formidably able politician, extremely charismatic and successful, but we'll have to wait and see what she says. I don't know what she's going to say, though very often journalists know ahead of politicians what statements are going to be made.
The implications of what you're doing, that would be a tangible impact.
I'll have to wait and see what she says and what reasons are given, but I have the greatest admiration for Ruth Davidson, who has done a great deal for conservatism in the country at large.
Jacob Rees-Mogg, thank you very much for your time this morning, for joining us on the balcony with
lovely, yes.
With the sun shining. The reason I mention it is because we're going to carol with the weather right now, but I thank you for your time this morning.
The sun shines under Boris Johnson government.
Thank you very much. Carol, it's over to you.
We will make America great again.